Ah, look at that. Don't you just want to put your mouth around that? Oops, oh, I got so excited I dropped it. Hello my friends, it's Sylvie Curry, Lady of Q. And today I'm going to be making a fluffy butter roll. This is going to be a real buttery type treat that I liken to something like a monkey bread. But instead of a monkey bread having uneven, non-uniform type pieces, this is going to have distinct little rolls. So stick with me and let's get through this recipe. Here are my ingredients for this fluffy butter bread. And I'm going to give the amounts in grams in that was the way the recipe was written that I'm going to be using. I've got 200 grams of all-purpose flour. The recipe called for bread flour, but I know that I can substitute all-purpose bread flour and I should get the same effect. I've got 20 grams of sugar, 3 grams of salt, 5 grams of dried non-fat dry milk. I've got 100 grams of water. I've got 1 egg beaten, and I'm going to be using 30 grams of that. And I'll set aside a little bit of it to use as an egg wash on the top of the bread. I've got 25 grams of butter, which I'm going to bring to room temperature. I have an additional 45 grams of butter, which I'm going to be using later on to make this really buttery bread. And I've got some flour to the side so that when I do my kneading and all that of the dough, I can have the flour on the side to keep the dough from being too sticky. The first step in this recipe is to combine all the dry ingredients. So I've got my flour. I'm going to add the salt, the non-fat dry milk, and the sugar together. And we'll blend those evenly. Okay, then my next step will be to combine my water, yeast, and my beaten egg. And I'm going to place these in the bowl of the mixer. I've got my water in the mixer. I'm going to add the yeast. And we'll watch that to make sure that it does bloom. You can see that my yeast is active. It is starting to bloom. I'm now going to add my beaten egg to the water and the yeast mixture. We'll begin mixing that together. I'm now going to start adding my flour to the water, egg, and yeast mixture. And I'm going to let this go for about 10 minutes. And I've got it starting out on a low speed. We'll continue mixing this until all the ingredients are combined. The dough's gone through its 10 minutes of kneading. And I'm now going to add my 25 grams of softened butter, and we'll put that in the center of the dough ball, and we'll start the mixture up again so that that can combine with this dough. And this is going to be a messy mix. We'll leave this for another, about 5 minutes until that butter is combined in there. have my dough ball, and determine if it's adequately kneaded. See if I can pull it a little bit, and I can see through it, and we can tell. I'll pull it a little bit and you can see the little gluten strands are there. So it's ready. It's a sticky dough. So I've got some flour here, and I'll put some flour on my hand so that it's easy to work with this dough. And I'll move it on to this flour. So I've got my ball. Now I'm going to do a little bit more kneading and get it into a rounded ball. It's a matter of taking it and rotating it around while pulling to tighten that outer skin. And we'll have a smooth texture there. And I'm going to place that in my little pan here with a little flour in there, just to keep it from sticking. And put a little flour on the top of here too. And I've got some saran wrap that I'm going to use to cover it. Got our dough ball. It's doubled in size. And now we're going to take it and we're going to divide it into 16ths. Put a little bit of flour here. Then we take out our dough. Deflate it a bit. And then I'm going to divide it in one, then there, then another time, until we have 16 balls. Try to get it even. That's 8. And there we have 16. I've got my 16 individual pieces, and now I'm going to take a little rolling pin and just deflate it a little bit more, not much. And then I'm going to take that piece of dough and form it into rounds again. As we do all 16 pieces, I'll come back to you and show you what I've got. Now these balls don't have to be exact because we're going to go through another fermentation after we let this rest for a while. I've got my 16 balls done, and they don't have to be perfect at this stage because I'm going to just take this damp towel and just put it over the top of it and let them rest for about 15 minutes. Our bread has had an opportunity to rest for about 15 minutes, and now I'm going to take them and form them into nice little tight balls. I'm going to deflate them first and then form them into tight balls and put them in a pan. And for that I have this glass pan. It's actually an 8x8. A smaller pan probably would have been preferable, but this is the smallest that I have. So we'll go from there. I do have parchment paper in there, and that's just to make it easier for it to rise and creep up the sides. Take each ball, deflated it, and now I'm going to just roll it into a tight little package. And then I make sure that the other side, that seam is in place. And then we'll place it in our little pan here. It's a very sticky dough, but nice and fluffy soft. Here are my dinner rolls, my fluffy, buttery dinner rolls, after a couple hours of resting and warming so that they can go through the second fermentation and get double in size, and they've done that. I think one of the issues I have is that they aren't as tight together as I would like them to be, and that's because this container is an 8-inch square, whereas the recipe actually calls for a 7-inch square. My next step then is going to be to take my egg wash, and this is just beaten egg, and I'm going to go over each roll, and that's going to help in the browning, the color, as they bake. Being careful not to deflate anything. I just want to get a coating. And after we get this coating on, then I'm going to put it in a 410 degree oven, and I'm going to cook them until they're brown, which is going to be 12 to 14 minutes. But before that step, the piece de resistance is to add more butter. So I'm just going to add these cubes of butter all over my rolls so that they'll be doused in a nice buttery coating. And this is that 45 grams of butter. That little beep you just heard, that was my stove indicating that it's up to temp and ready for me to put these in. There, my rolls are ready to go in the oven. Ah, look at that. Don't you just want to put your mouth around that? Oops! Oh, I got so excited I dropped it. Fluffy, buttery dinner rolls. And they taste good. Yum.